Welcome to another episode of Pound for Pound Boxing Report. After taking a couple of weeks off, we are back. I'm your host, Michael. Joining me this week live from the UK, Gus from Corruption and Boxing, live from NY, Daniel Carpio of the Inscriber. What's going on, gents?
Good on. Be back.
For those who are new to the Pound for Pound Boxing Report, once again, Pound for Pound Boxing Report live YouTube show, as well as podcast and blog discussing all things boxing. The motto is, when boxing is good, we will talk about it. When boxing is bad, we will talk about it. Bottom line is, if it concerns boxing, it's going to be talked about. You'll want to find more information about Pound for Pound Boxing Report. One main place you want to go to, that's the blog page. P4pboxingreport.wordpress.com is the link. You check to the right of the blog page. You will find the links to find us all over YouTube, all over the interwebs. Links to find us on Facebook, G+, Tumblr, the Twitter handle, where to find us on YouTube. Also, where to listen to us, check us out via RSS feed, as well as listen to us via Stitcher, SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, and lastly, link to find an email address, which is p4pboxingrpt@gmail.com. Let's get the show started tonight. Normally, we would do like a recap of what went down. Since boxing has been like really all this month, there was some action last week that we will talk about in a little while. I want to talk about the Olympics. They just recently finished Olympics vis-a-vis boxing. I would just open it up to anybody who want to respond. Your thoughts on what you saw from the Olympics. Who were you impressed by? The biggest surprise, the biggest upset. In short, your recaps of boxing for Rio 2016.
You first, Gus?
Sure. So yeah, Mike, an inaugural system.
You might want to fix your camera because I'm just seeing your ear, man. Or just put your avatar up.
There we go.
Okay.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. As we were saying, the first time we've moved to a 10-point must system. So we've seen the old point scoring system, which was pretty ridiculous, being overhauled, and so yeah, it was curious to see whether this whole new 5-panel judge scoring system would would render sort of correct decisions. But we know whenever there's judging and there's a 10-point system, as we've seen in the professional ranks, there's always going to be one or two controversial decisions. And initially, when the tournament was kicking off, we were seeing maybe 70–80%, good decisions, even round by round, with the 5-judge system. But sadly, controversial decisions started to, emanate, and sadly they even tainted the gold medal bouts as well. So overall, mixed impressions, Mike. I was impressed with a lot of fighters. Good to see the Cubans back. We saw Julio Cesar de la Cruz, light heavyweight, who was very, very impressive. Robert C. Ramirez, light flyweight, was also very, very impressive throughout. Pretty much the light flyweight tournament, which started at the start, was probably my most favourite of all of the weight divisions.
It was the best division during the Olympics.
Yeah, so many, and arguably, two fights which really stood out for me. Very early in the tournament, we saw Samuel Heredia of Spain up against, probably one of my most, probably a fighter who just stood toe-to-toe having wars, was Uriben Martinez of Colombia, who was also one of the surprise stories, who, with his aggressive sort of toe-to-toe style, made it to the final. But that earlier fight with Samuel Heredia of Spain was a fantastic fight. Just a toe-to-toe war. And also another real fun fight at the start. Nico Hernandez when he fought the Ecuadorian fighter Carlos Quipo. That was also a real sort of slugfest, sort of toe-to-toe, round by round, and Nico Hernandez was also a fighter. We spoke early on in the week, Mike. Who maybe also exceeded expectations as well, but I think it was well warranted. I think he's got a fantastic style. He defeated probably the second-ranked Russian fighter early on. I think it was in his second preliminary fight as well. But ultimately, I think the two Uzbeks guys who impressed me was Hassanboy Dusmatov, who actually won the light flyweight in the end, defeating Martinez, and Fazlidin Gaibnazarov, light welterweight fighter, who reminds me so much of a young Manny Pacquiao with that sort of wasp-like southpaw, so quick in and out, and the way he defeated that 6'1" Cuban defector to Azerbaijan, Lorenzo Sotomayor. The way he defeated him, coming inside, really, really impressive. So ultimately, I think it was the Eastern Europeans and the Cubans who were having the success, and and I've got to pay tribute to my British brethren as well, who Joshua Buatsi was light heavyweight as well. I think he had 2 stoppages as well. He's aggressive style. He did very well to capture the bronze medal, and Joe Joyce, representing the UK in our most treasured super heavyweight division, and he made it all the way to the final, and we saw him up against Tony Yoko, why I liked Joe Joyce was that his body attack, and we saw for the first time in which a 10-point system actually favors the fighters who are attacking the body, as previously the old point scoring system. And for those who may have forgotten now a point would only be registered if a lot of the judges had pressed a button in proximity of each other. So quite often we saw that when a judge who may be a little bit slow to the trigger in pressing a button, and it wouldn't be registered. So the error margins didn't favor the old system. But in this one, it did, and we saw a lot of body work being scored. But sadly, Joe Joyce, his body attack was not favored for Tony Yoko's maybe 1 or 2 punch cleaner work, I guess. So, but overall, yeah, it was a very, very good Olympics, and good to see the US boys finally getting a medal as well.
Indeed, indeed. Follow-up question before I go to Daniel. This Olympics, they fought without headgear. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Your thoughts on the fact that they fought this Olympics without headgear?
My preference would be without headgear, Mike, but inevitably that would pave the way for facial damage, and we saw a lot of that. But as to whether I agree with the judges stopping the fight to attend to the fighters, allowing them, a certain time allocation for the corners and maybe the doctors to work on facial damage, cuts. We don't see fighters receiving such benefits in the professional ranks. So if ultimately they're trying to replicate that, get a homogeneous system, does that take away from the fighters who are inducing the damage? Maybe so. We've seen fights being stopped due to facial damage in the professional ranks, and the irony is that one of the Russian fighters who received a beneficial decision. We saw that against the Irish fighter Michael Conlon. He was not able to compete in the fight after due to his facial damage, Mike. So so it almost begs the question as to if in the early on where he had that head gash, whether they perhaps would have allowed him to continue given the severity of his injury. So in a way, it's nice because you can see the personality of the fighters. You can see their expressions. You can see, more visibly the punches being landed. But as to whether they should be stopping the fights due to attending cuts, I guess it's a transition, Mike. It's the first Olympics in which we've moved into this new system without head guards. But ultimately, no, I wouldn't want fights being stopped due to that. I think that's what we have tournament for. And ultimately, if a fighter is unable to continue due to facial damage sustained during the in-ring action, then that decision should go down to referee.
I see Scorsese has joined us. Open up your mic, bro. We're talking the Rio 2016 in boxing in Rio Olympics. Your thoughts on what went down?
Oh yeah, I put in the chat. I don't know if you've seen it, but I had to boycott all the Olympics. I don't agree with the IOC and their policies and their cover-ups and things like that. So I missed every portion of those games.
Understood. We'll go back to you in a bit. I'll go to you, Daniel. Your thoughts on what went down?
It was a decent Olympic. It was a decent pace to see without the headgear, because then you saw how these guys would actually react a little bit in the pro ranks with it. The 10-point must system. Okay, I can understand. They still have to work some kinks out of it, but it looks really good. There's a lot of things you can take away from this when it comes to the Olympics. If you want to look on the U.S. side, you can look at the fact that probably not a lot of people expected a male boxer to medal for the U.S., but we wound up having Nico Hernandez being the Cinderella of the team, winning the bronze. We wound up Shakur Stevenson, and I know Gus doesn't really agree, but there's a lot of people that can debate whether or not he actually won that gold medal instead of the silver he got. And like I said, then there were other fighters too. Like there was a couple of fighters, I forgot their names, that they're Americans, but they're representative of the countries. Like they represent Honduras and Haiti that looked really good. Gary Antoine Russell should have a bronze medal. Actually, there's been a actually decent fighters. I have to give props ultimately to the delegation from Uzbekistan. They came and dominated pretty much almost the entire facet that they were involved in as far as the Olympics. Hassan Boy was probably their best fighter out of the bunch, and he's already signed to a pro contract. I think he's highlighted for a September debut. So that's going to be an interesting thing. And overall, what probably you can take away most from the Olympics is particularly what they saw with the pro ranks, because you had 3 pro fighters go in there. None of them made it to the medal rounds.
Ron Roy got bounced all around the ring.
One guy rushed around. Hassam Endan just never got into the fight, but it's kind of interesting that a guy who is a slow starter naturally doesn't win a 3-round fight. So, but if they can fix a way to get it, I can see the pros going after it. I can see the pros going in it. It just can't be anybody, like the WBC said, nobody in the top 15. Let it be in the lower fringes. Let it be some guy that's, like I said, that's coming up, that's a prospect, and let him try to develop his game a little bit more, because there's some little things going on. And like, probably the ultimate question, like I said, I asked Gus again. I just want his answer live. The super heavyweight fight, John Joyce versus good old boy from France, Yoka, Tony Yoka. In Britain, were they just mad that they lost, or were they mad of who he lost to?
No, you know, they were. I wouldn't say they were mad, but no, we had on our broadcasting we had former WBC super middleweight champion who lost against Roy Jones in the Olympics. So his name just eludes me. He won the bronze medal, and he was overseeing with Ronald McIntosh on the BBC, and they had Anthony Joshua there as well. But yeah, I think they had it on the 2-1 for Joyce. I think the first round, in which all of the judges, I think across the board, all 5 of them had scored it for Yoka, which was astonishing. I don't know how you had it, Mike, if you can recall the first round, but I felt Joyce in that round, his body work was superb. Really breaking down. I thought Tony Yoka came back well in the second round, but Joyce, he's got an amazing engine on him, very, very good chin, very, very relatively, heavy-handed as well. So I thought it was pretty unanimous in the sense that a 2-1, arguably 3-0. So mild protestations, but no, they weren't sort of screaming and shouting and saying that it's a massive outrage. But yeah, it was disappointment, definitely.
Actually, you asked the question. I had it Joyce 2-1, gave him the first and the third, gave the other guy the second round. In terms of the Olympics, from the U.S. side, the star was Clarissa Shields. The most moving moment, Shakur Stevenson. Somebody needs to mute their mic. I'm hearing some echo. Give me this. Okay, there it is. I'll mute.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I don't know if it's you, Daniel, but everybody mute their mics, please. There you go. In terms of the most moving moment, most touching moment was Shakur Stevenson's post-fight interview after he lost the gold medal match. That kind of got to me. The fighters who I was impressed by, Shakur Stevenson. I was impressed. You mentioned the light flyweights. The guy that Julio Cesar La Cruz, who won the gold medal. Not the fact that he won the gold medal, but the fact he beat one of the more talented fighters in the overall divisions, Arguelagos from Cuba, who early on looked like he was going to be the fighter of the tournament. Very slick guy, defensive wizardry. Not I'm gonna say wizardry, but his ability to slip punches was terrific. But he lost to the Colombian fighter who won the gold medal. Biggest upset, Katie Taylor losing. I know she had lost a fight heading into the tournament, but I thought she would pick it up, and she lost her first bout, I believe. The same Katie Taylor who many considered 4 years ago, even up to 2 years ago, the best fighter, women pound for pound in the world. The fact that she lost. Give a shout out to Nicola Adams from the UK who won gold medal repeat. Joe Joyce, of course, who lost. I thought he won. So yeah, that's my wrap up here. I'll say it before when Gus was talking. I'll say it again. I thought light flyweight was the best division. I'm gonna open up to everybody here. Scorsese mentioned that he boycotted due to his issues with the IOC. I will throw AIBA in that as well, and that certainly showed itself out in some of the controversial decisions. So, first of all, Scorsese, go in more detail in terms of your discuss with the IOC first of all, and then we could just open up for a discussion about some of the controversy in terms of the scoring.
Um, it's pretty deep. You think about it. You got them supporting nations, and it went in a lot of history too, where they were supporting nations that every time they support a nation, it seems this guy who's a leader, a dictator or something, he gets a lot more power because he's hosted the Olympics, and then he's ready to go Billy Badass. And this time, well, last time it was Putin. Now they're going back to China, where basically police states, and they can get away with these crazy policies to put on the best show they can put on for their own benefit, calling themselves a non-profit. But I wouldn't want somebody to come over here in America and say, hey, we need his land, his home, to build, arenas that you're just gonna set up and never let anybody, go in, no performances. If a person need a fucking place to sleep, you're not gonna give them a blanket and a mat or something and say, hey, our arena's open. Nah, it's just gonna fucking be built up for 20 years looking like an attraction, but it attracts nothing except for what, the regular man can't have. But they can go build those stadiums, tear people's homes down. As far as the one over there in, gosh, can't think of the country name right now. The Rio Olympics, Brazil, right? Correct.
Yeah,
Brazil.
Brazil.
Yeah. Okay. As far as that, they didn't have to really evict people. They was, well, from what I'm hearing, evicting squatters, evicting, people that really didn't have claim to the land. But when you think about, they saying they didn't do anything for the waters correctly, that they just passed that, and scientists could prove that nothing was done the right way. It's basically our benefit for themselves. The athletes are not, complaining. They're not allowed to wear sponsorships. One guy who ran for the Olympic team, can't remember the name, for the U.S. He said the first time I done this, I was happy just to be, representing my country, to put this flag on and do what I spent my life trying to do. And I understand him. He said, you know what happened to my medal and everybody else's medal? They end up in a sock drawer somewhere. And I know exactly what he's talking. I haven't won a gold medal, but I've won like state titles. I don't know where that shit is anymore. I didn't get checks for that. You know what I mean? You're not supposed to in high school, I guess, but I don't know where that shit is, and I believe him when he says some people go metal. If you move houses, what you gonna do? Pack it up in some beautiful thing and tell the driver to here, hold this in your lap. No, you're gonna box it, and then you got more important things to, get out in your house and lay out. So that shit end up in a sock drawer, like you said, and you can't even wear sponsorship on your shoulder. He was out there in black tape on his body. Black around his tail, and I really never been big on the Olympics anyways because of the times they came on. But now since it was like everything was Central and Eastern time or somewhere in that we could watch it and not throw our lives off, I still didn't care to go into it because I knew what they were doing, how it was done, and with them going back to China again to likely, I don't know if they're using I don't know if it's Sochi again. No, that's not it. I can't remember the exact.
The next Olympics is in Japan.
Tokyo, yeah.
They going to China again. Yeah, you're right. It's in Japan, but they have like, uh, China basically celebrated flat out when they announced they're going back to China because China put on one that was ridiculous. You know what I mean? They put on the biggest and best one, and they're going back to it where they can, if they need to throw people in jail, if you speak out, you don't have freedom of the press in China. You don't have amendments where you can state your claim and be okay. They put your ass in jail and keep you there, and I wouldn't want that done to me. So I'm not, I just can't support that. And I mean, trust me, I'm not hurting putting a dent in their pocket because most people don't give a shit, but I just want to support it.
Your thoughts on that? Everybody, open your mics.
The issue when it comes, and it's a fundamental issue when it comes to the Olympics, is a lot of what their sites are called, they're mainly now called white elephants. And I forgot which country was originated the story from, but the story of the white elephant is there was, I think, a king, and the delegation came in and gave him a present, and they gave him a white elephant, which is a rarity. And it was supposed to show that the king has the rarest things. It's only It's an animal. It's only fit for a king, but taking care of an elephant takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. So in the end, it winds up becoming more of a burden in a lot of people's way. That's what a lot of people view the Olympics when it comes down to it. And with Scorsese, the thing about the land, they're not technically right when it comes to saying nobody claimed it. The thing is, they took down a lot of favelas. Favelas are basically Brazilian ghettos. And the way the favelas are built, the way pretty much in any real ghetto in South America is built, and no, like I said, no, and I was born in one. You're in class into a big set of buildings that are really, really connected together, and you can't build out. You have to build up to come into it, and it's a lot of shoddy construction when it comes down to it, but people grow a community there. And that's what I think a lot of happened with the Olympics. Now, Brazil has its own little problems. Like, they had a president, female president. They wound up trying to impeach her, and now the government that replaced her is having problems. And I don't know if we're going to China, Scorsese. I think the next Winter Olympics is actually in South Korea.
It's not China. It's not the next one they coming. They have gifted them another one. I think I can't remember the year, but they flat out gifted them another. And if you watch
Oh no, I think you mean the Winter Olympics. Yeah, the Winter Olympics.
I don't know which one it is, but I've forgotten. But the last thing I've watched about this altogether, I've known about it a while, but the last thing I watched was Brian Gumbel's show after War Fight, I think, and they gifted them, and they showed the tapings of when they gifted them that. When I actually knew they did that, but they showed the tapings of it there, and it reminded me, yeah, this is why I don't be supporting that shit. Like they intrigued me on Saturday night to sit there and watch that, because I mean, I can't imagine somebody taking my rights, my home. You know, that shit that's brutal, man. That's power that they basically are saying we gonna have power that nobody else can have. You know, that's what it is.
The thing is, we see it in this country. We see it in the manner of cities using eminent domain to build cities. Like one of the more recent ones is out here, Barclays Center. To build Barclays Center, they literally fought a literal community that did not want Barclays Center to be where it's at, and they ultimately lost. And it happens a lot in this area, like in Miami, Marlins Park. Nobody wanted Marlins Park, especially the way it's been funded. But somehow we got Marlins Park. It's the main issue with the Olympics overall is the fact that a lot of their facilities are built for one specific purpose.
And they're going, yeah, that's the point. And nothing else goes from that. They bring no more attraction after that.
No, the only thing that they can do with the stadiums, and luckily this is one of the things, luckily when it comes to Brazil, and they did it with the World Cup, is you have teams that can use it, soccer teams that can use it. But everything else, like the pool, the diving boards.
Yeah, sports that people do not participate in those countries. They're useless in those buildings. Taxpayer money is built to maintain a country's money goes toward. It's ridiculous. It compares to Barclays. I see what you're saying in the fight to build and not to build it. You know, and people in the United States, I'm pretty sure you compensated if you asked to move. As far as what they did in China, your compensation is behind bars. Your compensation is probably 2 meals a day and sleeping all day. But like you said, our centers are used. They bring attraction and they bring money into the communities. People are probably still getting some kind of payment for leaving their homes, maybe. But the difference is 100%. Those buildings they put up there, that's man-made work for no cause, and I couldn't imagine like going 2 miles to some place down the street where they kick me out of the place I love to live, or not love, even live, hell. I live there, don't matter what I love, I need that place. And got a new place and I don't like it as much, and I'm just going by fucking stadiums. Nobody is doing anything in. What am I supposed to be happy about? That's insane. I can't support that at all. I don't need an Olympic game if I gotta see something like that. I'm not a super humanitarian, but at the end of the day, I cannot look at that and say I would want that done to me, and I wouldn't look at any other person and say I want to do it to you.
Your thoughts on all this, Gus, as well as some of the controversy specifically involved with the Olympics in terms of the scoring and whatnot.
Now, Mike, in terms of what Scorsese has touched upon, you know, we can dedicate a show to this, because when we look at the award of a major event, i.e., an Olympics or a football World Cup, etc. Now, I've had a look at the sort of allocation and the bidding process, etc. And when countries are submitting their bids, they must underline social and sort of economic benefits that have to be widespread. Now, when the committees are obviously allocating an Olympics or whatever, they tend to sort of alternate between Europe and other continents, but also their vested interests are to allocate Olympics to new countries and continents that may never have hosted it, with obviously the agenda of being that maybe, you know, the investment both from government and private investment would allow you know, significant redevelopments or new cities to be built and new complexes, and thus a legacy after in which the country can say that, look, all right, you know, we've spent an X amount of money and hence we've got to raise the revenue from other means, where it means leasing the stadiums to domestic teams or whatever. So the whole proposal, we know, is vast and complex, and we know that facilitation payments and backhanders are definitely lodged in terms of trying to accelerate their bids and the corruption which is inevitable. We've seen that with sort of Qatar and Russia and their bids being vehemently challenged, both in the Football World Cup, and so if we look at Qatar in terms of winning a footballing World Cup now, there's an argument to say that, you know, how on earth has a country won such a bid in which the World Cup has to be played in such ridiculous heats, etc., and they've got no domestic leagues, whatever else. So, you know, we know that. But in terms of Brazil, Mike, now, yeah, there was uproar before in terms of the Football World Cup, in which the amount of money that was allocated, some 14 billion, etc., and we saw none of that being actually directed in terms of development of new cities and infrastructure. But with the Olympics, we did see for the first time public transport actually being developed. And yeah, we saw a lot of communities being displaced, and no rights to any of the people in the favelas in terms of being rehoused. But if we look at established democratic countries, Mike, and I'll give you an example in which Heathrow Airport, which is probably the most renowned airport there is. Now, Heathrow Airport, there's been a plan to develop a new runway, the third runway. Now, that motion has been undergoing for some 10 years, and you know, what we're talking about here is in which there will have to be significant relocation of some, you know, we're talking maybe 40,000-50,000 people to develop the new runway. And given the debate that is enraged, we've seen that, you know, the runway not being built, not even being started. Now, if you look at China, for example, they're actually building new airports, from my understanding, almost 8 new airports are being built every year. So clearly we're talking about the rights of people being violated, as opposed to over here, in which, you know, such a motion is not possible until a full relocation package has been agreed, and we look at the social and the environmental implications as well. So we're seeing so many lobbying groups, both from an economic and environmental platform, actually contesting it in Parliament and denying the motion until the full implications are sort of examined. So yeah, you know, the controversy is definitely there, but so, you know, you can have this debate so much in terms of how such a motion is possible, as to in countries where the rights of people are not protected, in which governments are able to pretty much do what they want, develop new cities for their benefits. You know, certainly they want the favelas and all of these communities. Naturally, they want them displaced. They don't really want them there. We know that.
Yeah, and that's 2022. They're going back to Beijing. And the first one, I think, was 2008. And the point of going back to Beijing is China can get it done. Like, no questions asked. If you write about it, jail. Like, and the IOC claims that we don't know about that. So, can't claim you're a humanitarian at the same time.
And you look at the number of casualties in terms of construction workers, etc., that they've brought from outside, even Europe, dying with poor sort of health and safety as well. You know, pretty much ignored and forgotten.
You just touched on the airport. Like, if we're gonna talk that, like I said, there's actually that's something that actually happened now with LaGuardia Airport. LaGuardia Airport technically is like the redheaded stepchild of New York City airports. And they're just now, like, it took them decades. They're just now starting to renovate it. And it's going to take 6 or 7 years to completely renovate that thing. That's an entire airport. Like I said,
China could have built about 30 airports.
Yeah. The thing with China, and I know we're getting off boxing and we're going to be talking a little bit world economics for a little bit, but I want people to realize something. China has the 2008 housing bubble we suffered here on steroids. Their bubble is immense because they're not building ghost neighborhoods. They're building ghost cities. They're literally building actual cities, and there's literally probably about 1,000 or 2,000 people living in those entire cities.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason they're building that is because one of the measurements of economic growth is construction. If you're building new buildings, it is because you think those buildings are going to be housed by human beings, and they're going to be used either as living quarters or work quarters. With China, they figured out if we just keep building things, people are going to think our economy is growing. But ultimately, that bubble is going to burst.
Yeah, that's incorrect, because it happened in Southeast Asia back in 1998. We saw that with
I think it was Vietnam,
Malaysia, South Korea, the so-called new emerging tigers. Who had 15, 16 years of unprecedented economic growth. We saw their bubble burst pretty much in the same way, and that was due to pretty much cronyism.
Yeah, and China's going to go through it almost in a way that it's going to be seismic, because David, like I said, there's already enough people already knowing what's happening. The problem is going to be when the bubble pops, because you look how China got shook up by Brexit. The world markets got shook up by Brexit. Could you just imagine the world market being shook by a Chinese version of the U.S. housing bubble bursting. That's unfortunately one of the things that's been happening with things like the Olympics. And you can actually think of it in the way in boxing, the way, if we're going to go back to boxing, in the way that fighters are developed in a way. Like with fighters that have these nice records, but they don't really have good opposition. And once they get into a good competition, they falter. Like the best example, and I'm sorry if Mike for mentioning him, but Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.
That's my guy, man. I like that guy.
Oh,
Yeah.
stop.
I do, man. I like that guy. I'm entertained. I'm entertained when he's
Stop it. Stop it.
But you have to agree, like up till he fought, I think, Sergio Martinez, he didn't really face much opposition, much strong opposition. The minute he fought Sergio Martinez, even with almost having that miracle comeback, nothing.
Andy Lee.
Andy, yeah.
Andy.
That's it.
And what you want for that? Let me stop. I don't want to go on a Chavez Jr. rack. Proceed, Daniel.
No, okay, but that's the thing. But it's the same thing we're thinking about. If you want to think about the Chinese economy and what may happen to it, look at what Chavez Jr.'s career has gone through. Once he faced some legitimate controversy by a pound-for-pound fighter in Sergio Martinez. And then look how far it's scaled back since. That's the conversation Scorsese and Gus are bringing up when it comes to how the Olympics are run, and in many ways the dark side of what is supposed to be 2 weeks of celebrating the world. It's the same thing with the World Cup. It's a month of celebrating the world, but as we know, we're about to have a World Cup in Qatar, a country that literally has no soccer history,
Crazy.
has no stadiums, but they have the largest natural gas reserves in the world, and a very small native Qatari population. So pretty much the Qataris are pretty wealthy. And guess who's not working for them? People from India, Nepal, Bangladesh. Those are the people building the stadiums. And those quarters are horrid. Like I said, I went on a port visit to Dubai with my second deployment in the Navy, and we actually had to drive back some of the quarters that with Dubai, they like more, I think, Bangladeshi more than other when it comes to slave labor. You saw the quarters living there, and it's nothing compared to the city. That's what's happening there. And it's a good conversation to have. I know this is a boxing show, but this highlights one of the things that's actually wrong with boxing. Like, we don't really know how to really build things properly, and the people that do build things properly wind up building a pretty shoddy product in the end. And that has hurt the sport overall over the last 30 years.
Given what you just said, let me ask one final question before we move on. In terms of building fighters up, of the fighters that you saw in 2016, who do you think has the best pro potential to win a world title, to potentially make moves, become a star? And this is for anybody.
From all the from the fighters at the Olympics?
Yeah, from the fighters in Rio 2016.
Shakur, actually.
He's certainly going to get probably the most lucrative contract.
Yeah. And actually, this is what I forgot to mention when it comes to Shakur Stevenson. Like, we love the emotion that he showed after winning that fight. Like, he literally was bawling, saying, "I don't like to lose." I think he can take comfort in the recent history of American fighters that have not won gold. Roy Jones Jr., robbed of his gold medal, wound up being the best fighter of his generation. Floyd Mayweather, robbed of the chance to fight for a gold medal in Atlanta, wound up being the best fighter of his generation. So there's some decent history. Even when Andre Ward won gold. Right now, he could be in the argument for best fighter of his time right now if he beats Kovalev. So there's some decent history. Luckily, that Shakur Stevenson can follow one. And Gus is right. That kid's going to get a lucrative deal. Floyd went to Rio just specifically to sign him. And apparently he didn't get the job done. So there's going to be a huge bidding war for Shakur Stevenson and for Clarissa Shields, by the way, because in her gold medal fight, Chris Mannix mentioned Oscar De La Hoya is now interested in Clarissa Shields.
Let me say something about that. The powers that be in boxing, the promoters and whatnot, y'all better do right by her. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Y'all better do right by her. Give her the spotlight that she deserves. Gives the money that she deserves. Because I can see Dana White lurking around in the waters like a shark, trying to find somewhere to scoop her up. Y'all better not let that happen.
Did you say Oscar De La Hoya said he's not interested or now interested?
He's now interested. Oh, and along with that, Steven Espinosa with Showtime has also mentioned that he was willing to now broadcast female boxers.
I mean, they better. That's all I'm gonna say. They better do right by her.
Now, actually, for Gus in the British front, who's it going to be for Joe Joyce? Eddie Hearn or Frank Warren?
See, you were mentioning Floyd Mayweather. Like, you know, he was also interested in Joshua Buatsi, who took home a bronze. Floyd was seen with him a few times, and Joshua was mentioning in his interview that Floyd was, you know, giving him some advice and talking about, you know, his options should he decide to turn professional. So there's a possibility. I'm not heard about Joshua's decision whether he's going to turn pro, but he's in his mid-20s, so I suspect so. But yeah, in terms of an exciting fighter, Mike, you know, he's got very much a professional style. Even Joe Joyce as well. Joe, I think Eddie Hearn would probably be. He would have the larger budget to Joyce, in my opinion. And given that Anthony Joshua's been chaperoning him, you know, it's a natural transition that, you know, for him to go to Matchroom. I think that deal would definitely happen.
What's the story behind Joe Joyce, a 30-year-old Olympian? What's the story there? Just like, if anybody know quickly, like what's with being 30 in the Olympics? I know Joshua's story is he's older, started late because of some issues with, you know, trouble and things like that, and then being told to go to the gym because he might be violent and it might help him. But what's the issue with Joe Joyce? I saw the age of 30 on him.
Same as well. I mean, a case of starting boxing at a 20. I think he started 24, 25.
Yeah, he gonna have to start. Whoever he signed with, I don't think he got much cushion time to, you know, play with.
I wouldn't worry about that because he's a heavyweight.
Yeah, the heavyweights can pretty much fight until.
I mentioned De La Cruz. I mentioned the wrong guy who won the title, the gold at light flyweight. I said De La Cruz. I wish, and I mentioned him now because I wish he could find a way to turn pro, maybe defect, because I think he may have the best pro potential of the lot.
Yeah, I agree, Mike. And given that it's his second gold medal at a different weight as well, which it just makes his achievements, even better. And you're right, it would be a travesty for somebody like that who's represented his country in 2 Olympics, winning 2 gold medals at 2 different weights, for him to be denied an opportunity, to represent, Cuba at the professional level now, and win a gold medal, for himself and generate some money for himself and his family. So yeah,
Let's
I
move on.
agree 100%.
Let's move on. Go ahead. Go ahead, Scorsese, right quick.
Is that the Cuban you talking about, the light heavyweight? Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I've seen him prior to that. This guy's good.
Let's move on right quick to some pro boxing. I'll go to you, Gus. Main bout this weekend, Errol Spence fighting a eliminator against Bundu. Errol Spence dominant, stopped him in 6 rounds in a beautiful way at the end. 2 knockdowns to end the fight. I go to you, Scorsese. I'm gonna ask the question here right now. We know Brooke is right now getting ready to fight Triple G at middleweight. With that being the case, Spence is mandatory. But in spite of that, bottom line is Errol Spence the most feared welterweight in the world? I could make an argument that he is. Your thoughts?
You don't have to make an argument. It's everything but a fact. Um, and it's for good cause. The fight. Well, you mentioned Triple G, and I'm gonna throw Canelo in here as well. Those 2 guys, like, I remember some jerk, just a dummy, saying if Errol Spence is that bad, I won't name the channel, but you probably saw the video too. If Errol Spence is that bad of a man, tell him to go fight Triple G. And my stomach just almost pitted. But the thing here is, Triple G already beat Errol Spence. He beat him when he took his biggest fight away from him in the maybe the cherry pick of the year to me for biggest fighters. For the top name fighters, you fighting the welterweight. That's Errol Spence's destiny. That's supposed to be him and Kell Brooks' destiny. So when I see that fight on the 10th, I'm even more upset. Cause I ain't no way in hell after Kell Brooks get knocked out, you gonna say, oh, the young lions right there, the guy you just told everybody the truth. He's the most feared welterweight for damn good reason. The man hit Leonard Bundu in the body one time. Bundu was so sick of it, the man kicked his leg up to try to block the punch. Literally lifted a knee and a left elbow. It was on his left side, and he tried to block the damn punch with it like a Muay Thai type shit. How they block the shin kicks, they lift the leg. That's what this man done to get that body shot from hitting him. So yeah, for a damn good reason, nobody wants to go there. I give Keith Thurman all kind of credit. I didn't think he was gonna fight Sean Porter back the way he did. I thought he was gonna take the Kell Brook approach and drape and hug and lay. This man fought his butt off. He went in there and he put hands on Sean Porter. Had Sean Porter in the corner saying, "Dad, what do I do when he throw back?" Because Porter was not used to nobody getting on the inside and going that way with him, even though that's not Keith's game. But I don't think Keith Thurman is really looking that direction. That Danny Garcia direction just got a lot more street lights on it. A much more clearer path that you needed. This guy's going to end up fighting. Errol Spence is going to end up fighting. Let's at least hope a Peterson get a title shot. Let's at least hope it's Peterson in the IBF rankings or somebody, they got a complete game. I don't know I think Peterson can do 12 rounds. I don't know. But I don't see Kell Brook doing it. And yes, this man is ridiculously fit for good reason, man. Good reason. He's not only solid base, the athleticism there. I wouldn't be signing up to get in the ring with him if I had an option. I'm just saying.
Here's the thing, Gus, about Spence. Early in his career, he was applauded mainly for his ability as a body puncher. But as we've seen in the last, say, 6, 7 bouts, he's rounding out to become a complete fighter, not just an inside guy. The improvement in the jab, the way he can fight not just inside but also mid-range out as well in the center of the ring. He counterpunches now. And he doesn't show just power to the body anymore. He shows power to the head. Look at how he bounced Algeria around the ring. Well, not just body shots, but head shots around. Look at the damage that he did to Bundu and how Bundu reacted when Spence started landing to the head in round 5 and especially the final round of the fight, round 6. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Scorsese. Errol Spence, is he the most feared guy out there?
Maybe in the States, but I don't think he's feared by Kell Brook. I don't think Kell Brook fears him at all.
Here's the thing, though. For me, I think of the welterweight line. Since Brook is technically still a champion, I think Brook, who I've praised before and I still praise now, but at 147, I think Brook has the best chance to beat this guy. I think that would be a fantastic fight. The problem is he's moved up to middleweight, and given what he's walking around, I mean, look, 30 days out, he's weighed 176 for a fight at 160. I don't know if he can get back down to 147 now he's made this jump up to 160 for this fight with Triple G.
Yeah, that's the question, Mike. And it's interesting that in a very recent interview, I think it was just a few days ago, they did mention to Kell Brook about Errol Spence. Did you watch the fight? What was your opinion? You know, what are potentially your moves post Golovkin? And now Kell did express his unwillingness to relinquish his IBF belt. He almost mentioned that he could potentially get back down to welterweight and defend his IBF bout. And I think his exact words were that, yeah, I'll fight Spence if the people want to see that fight, I'll fight him. But it's not really a case of if the people want to see the fight. It's your mandatory. So, yeah, it's weird because, you know, he's in a fight at the moment now. So for him to be talking about, you know, potentially his moves after, I don't know, you know, it's you know, but I certainly can't see him getting back down to 147. You know, the word is that he's actually been coming down from 190, Mike, to make this 160 limit. You know, he was 10 pounds heavier than Golovkin at the 30-day limit.
Right.
So
11,
for him to,
was it 11
yeah,
or
for him.
12?
Sorry.
I think it was 11 or 12.
Yeah, could be. Yeah. It's just an approximation.
Yeah.
So, you know, for him to be, you know, losing 40, 50 pounds to get back down to 147 sort of post Golovkin, it's just utter madness. You know, I think he's kidding himself. Yeah, I can't see him campaigning back at 147. But back to in terms of Errol Spence, Mike, it's you know, impressive what he's doing, no doubt. But he's fought 2 fighters in Algeria and Bundu who've effectively got no power. And what I saw from this fight, Mike, was that he does get hit a lot. And where he gets hit a lot is not the first punch that he tends to block, is the second punch where he tends to stay in the pocket. What he does is when he's actually coming forward, he'll throw his jab, and then if somebody, what Bundu was doing was that he was switch hitting to try and negate his right hook and his left to the body as well. Bundu was actually having a good first round, but what I tend to see with Spence is a little bit of a telegraph jab. he tends to widen his stance and bend his right knee, and I could see exactly when he was actually landing his jab. So for somebody who has better hand speed and foot speed and somebody with a little bit of power, but maybe the question is that is Errol Spence pretty much saying that I don't even fear your power, I'll stay in the pocket, I can pretty much take your punches to land my own. Maybe it is a combination of that as well, but if he's going to ultimately go up against better opposition and somebody who's got more power and better hand and foot speed, that's when we'll see how good he is, because I don't know whether he'll stay in the pocket for that long.
Well,
We don't know how good he is. So
to say that kind of implies that Spence is unable to adapt and adjust based on the opponent. I don't think but I think he can. I think he has the talent, the wherewithal, and the intelligence to adapt to a guy with faster feet and faster hands. I mean, based on his experience, not just professional, but on the rise up, and you know he has had to fight some good high-quality sparring, and we've heard how well he dominates guys in the gym, so he's probably faced that kind of style before. Why, in short, how come if we know if he's fought high-quality sparring with different multitude of styles, and he can translate and he can dominate in that situation, what makes you think he wouldn't be able to adapt to that style as a professional against that kind of competition?
Two reasons. I don't think he has. I don't think he has the hand and foot speed or the lateral movement. In this fight, he did show a little bit more patience, and he did mention that as well because he knew Bundu would be switching. So therefore, he was trying to figure out, look, if he's coming off his right to his left, that's when Spence was actually throwing the jab when he was going more back onto the orthodox stance, and it worked well because Bundu was actually circling more to his counter or clockwise. So he had a better strategy of actually cutting the ring. But when he actually started working the body, he thought, look, I can slow him down. But my question is that he does get hit a lot. His defense is not that good, but it may be due to the fact that he's so confident in his ability and the fact that he's thinking, look, I can pretty much take your power to land my own. Fine, absolutely. But what happens when you come up with a fighter who can fight from a mid-range or long distance, somebody like a Kell Brook who throws that power lead right hand? Is he going to come forward as much? We don't know. We don't know how his chin is going to hold up to somebody who does throw power punches from that mid-range distance, and even with Keith Thurman as well, with his hooks and his lateral movement as well. So it's a question I'm sure that will be answered very, very soon, because he's ready now for a title shot. He wants it now. So either Kell Brook vacates or fights him, one or the other.
Daniel, your thoughts on Thurman's, not Thurman, but Errol Spence, the fight with Bundu in terms of his standing in the 147-pound division? I'll mute your mic, Daniel.
This one is going to be an answer both a yes and no. Yes, he's the most feared welterweight in the world, but are we talking about the sphere of the PBC, or are we talking about overall? Because let's face it, this is a pretty fractured division that PBC does dominate a little bit. Now, as for a fight itself, yeah, Bundu won the first round because he came forward and he decided to attack Spence immediately. The problem is, I did see slow, more methodical Spence break down Bundu over time. And in the sixth round, granted, he only got credited for one knockdown. The first knockdown, which came from the left uppercut, was ruled a slip.
That was a knockdown. It just didn't get called.
Yeah, that was a knockdown, but like I said, it just didn't get called.
He pushed him after the punch.
That
He
that
pushed him
punch,
off.
but that punch hurt though. It hurt him.
It
Hurt
did.
him
I
bad.
agree.
He did,
He
yeah.
should have finished him off with shots. He was ready to go, but Darrell just has been on over, boy.
Yeah. Oh no, that one, yeah. And then the second knockdown, that's a knockout of the year candidate.
Mhm.
An emphatic knockout of the year candidate. As far as the sphere that he's going to, I don't think he's ever going to face Kell Brook unless he himself moves up. Because honestly, I don't think Kell Brook's body can go down to 147 anymore.
Mm-mm.
Not and stay healthy at the same time. And honestly, like the decision when to keep his belts, I think Brook knows that decision is not going to be made for him. It's his body, and the IBF will make it for him. Because I think he's gonna probably fight at junior middleweight, and I could see him fight the winner of J-Rock and Jamal Charlo, because Jamal himself is gonna move up to middleweight soon enough. So I could see him. Yeah, so I could see him in that sphere. And once you take Brook out of the equation, you have left for the PBC fighters, and yeah, because I still have to count him because he's still active. Pacquiao.
Kell Brook is Canelo's next opponent. Win, lose, or draw.
Nope.
Knockout or not. He's Canelo's next. Yeah.
No, I said that's the thing.
Could well be, yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Canelo's gonna say it's a Golden Boy was gonna see how I could do compared to Triple G. I don't care if you knocked out. Now if you go 4 or 5 rounds, definite. First round, no. 4 or 5 rounds, they're gonna say, hey, he showed a lot of fight. He was in with the bigger man, and then they're gonna put him in the ring with Canelo, and then Golden Boy said they can't wait past 2017 for Golovkin. So maybe they man up and accept their fate.
well, that's the whole thing with Spence. He is. You could consider him right now the best prospect out of it right now in the entire PBC world at 147. And granted, the PBC universe consists member of Amir Khan, Lamont Peterson, Keith Thurman, and Danny Garcia. Now we know damn well Danny Garcia is going to go and nowhere near him.
No, he's not. He don't want none. He know better.
He didn't want none. Keith Thurman might want it, but Keith Thurman's going to ask for a lot of money to do it, which is kind of sad to me.
Look. Let's be clear about this. Errol Spence, from the beginning of his career, has said that if he ever fought Keith Thurman, he'd beat him. And you have Thurman talk about all these other fighters at 147. He's mentioned Kell Brook. He's talking Danny Garcia. I mean, hell, he spent all of 2015 talking up a fight with Mayweather, which he never got. He's even mentioned Pacquiao. And I've said it before, and I'll keep saying it. The one guy he has not mentioned, Errol Spence, even though Errol Spence has called this dude out.
Well,
the only way he will fight Errol Spence if it's a cash out situation where he can make big money. Other than that, he don't want any of them either.
No, well, that's the thing. That's the sad part, because I remember Keith Thurman running into Paulo Malignaggi's press conference after that disputed win that they got over Pablo Cesar Cano, and he flat out said, "You better not duck me," to Malignaggi. And now he's pretty much doing the same thing to Spence.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, like I said, which is a little bit sad. Now, as far as the IBF rankings, yeah, Lamont Peterson could still work. I wouldn't mind seeing Sean Porter versus Errol Spence.
That would be a good fight. Yeah, that's the one.
That would be a murder in my. I just
somebody with a solid chin.
Woo!
That can put pressure on him as well. That would be an ultimate test.
I can't say Porter has a solid chin. Like, I think it got rocked a lot with Thurman there, man. And
but did he go down? Scorsese, did he go down?
Porter, I think, has a good chin. The problem is his boxing skill is not on the level of Spence. When I say adjustment, again, I think Spence will adjust in this fight and outbox Porter.
Oh, let me make the point about the power. He said Porter's chin and power. Thurman has good power. Kell has good power. They both hurt Porter to the point that they could have got him out of there.
And
Both,
Spence's power is
both.
at the level, at least, of both Brooke and
And
Thurman.
then the fact that he's not even just gonna do both of those guys basically do head work. Spence gonna add that on with here. Let me take a little out your soul. Let me dip in your, let me pour some of your ketchup out on my fries, and then eat you up. So that's how I see it. Like I see him getting stopped. I would love to see the fight, but Porter's going. I'm not gonna call Porter a punk, but I don't think he's gonna take that fight either, man. We just gonna have to see him versus whoever the IBF throws in there, and that's the bull crap about it. That's what boxing is. We mess around competing with a sport that we so much better than because we actually throw punches and roll around on the floor, then roll around on the floor. But hey, we gotta fight guy. What he's gonna fight? Panamarev, ain't that the guy name? The guy gonna
He's
step up just because the title's on hold? Come on, man.
well, that's the story is when it comes to how this fight was made. When it comes to Bundu, is the same way that if you think about it, David Lemieux got his title.
Mm.
The way David Lemieux got the IBF middleweight title was because he's the guy that actually said yes when the IBF was going down to the opponent to say we just stripped Jermaine Taylor, Hassan Endam was your mandatory. Now you got to fight your mandatory, and people turn it down. Like Billy Joe Saunders turned it down because he said I have my WBO shot. David Lemieux was the one that said yes. Leonard Bundu in this case, because I heard Panamarev said no to a fight with Spence.
I heard Lamont Peterson said no because the WBC ranking he's in the tournament. He's supposed, he was supposed to be fighting Berto and
Exactly.
Yep, that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. But Spence was the guy that said yes to Bundu.
hmm
And that's what's ultimately happening. Now we got to wait to see which guy is saying yes to Spence. Honestly, like I said, the most reasonable one I can see is Sean Porter, because Sean Porter legitimately wants to be active.
want to be a champion.
Yeah, and wanted to be a champion, and in many ways he did deserve a rematch with Kell Brook. I don't know why they never gave it to him, but he deserved a rematch with Kell Brook in that fight. He fought his ass off. He just got beat by a better fighter.
Should have incorporated it in the contract,
Yeah, that's the whole thing. But I wouldn't mind seeing Sean Porter try to get a shot back. Like the same way I still kind of wish Chris Algieri, even though he would be murdered still, would fight Terrence Crawford, fight for a title that you never really lost. Think about it. Chris Algieri beat Provodnikov to win a title.
You never
Oh,
lost at 140.
Yeah, and was stripped of it simply because Top Rank opened their mouths and said, if you beat Provodnikov, we give you a Pacquiao fight.
Basically, stripped because some Pacquiao cherry picking. Let's just keep it real. Let's just keep it real.
Let's move on right quick and talk about the saga that is the heavyweight division currently. I'll go to you quickly, Daniel. You had PSV Sports, and he kind of gave some kind of surprising news regarding Fury Klitschko rematch, and whether, even though that there is a date, but apparently tickets have not been sold, and privately there's some questions whether this fight will happen. Talk about it.
Okay, the main thing, and I said shout out to Pat from PSB Sports. He's the one that came in with the breaking news that in reality, they've been talking about the date, October 29th, but the Manchester Arena technically isn't booked for anything on October 29th. And that does not sound good. If you're, like I said, and if you're following the saga right now of Kovalev Ward, it's kind of happening the same way. Where right now there's a situation involving lawyers. Tyson Fury is apparently suing the UK anti-doping agency for them saying that he popped for steroids. Him and his cousin Huey, saying that he popped for steroids before the Klitschko fight. And Klitschko now is suing Fury because, in their words, Fury is trying to get out of a contracted fight. And this goes back to the whole thing where Fury's accusing Klitschko of cooking the books when it comes to attendance numbers in the fight in Germany, because he was supposed to get a cut of that, and it's a 50,000 seat stadium, and their attendance was supposedly 36,000. So there's fighting that, and the whole aura, when it comes down to it, it has the feeling that this fight is not going to happen, and you're going to wind up in a situation where Tyson Fury is going to be somebody. Let's say a little bit like Algieri, he's going to be stripped of the belt without never defending it.
What are you hearing over there in the UK, Gus, as far as this fight?
Not a great deal up, Mike. I've actually been monitoring more this whole WBC situation with Povetkin and the CBP program, so I can't really add a lot more to what Daniel has said.
I'll move on right quick. Again, more heavyweight saga. I go to you, Gus. Luis Ortiz, Golden Boy, splitting up. Was this a surprise by you? Did you see it coming? Your thoughts on it?
Yeah, Mike. My worry was that, given the situation with Ortiz being under sort of Golden Boy, we were talking about it before in terms of the demographics of the heavyweights, in terms of where they all are. With obviously Joshua signing a dual contract with Showtime and sort of Sky Sports, and the WBC's belt being on that side as well, so that fight was always going to be potentially made in the future. Now, the one problem was obviously Luis Ortiz being with Golden Boy, and given his age as well, and the fact that he's been somehow mandated to fight in this ridiculous tournament for the WBA Super World, but getting past this whole interim and regular championship status, yeah, it didn't surprise me. And given that when he initially was asking for £250,000 more after pretty much agreeing pre-contract to actually fight, now we're seeing that purse bids going to Andre Rubinsky as well, and potentially a fight, should it materialize, being in Russia. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Mike, I think it was his co-promoter,
Day Promotions.
Day Promotions, who've actually bought out the contract, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this promoter actually works with, networks, etc., and whether this fight in Russia is actually going to happen as well. But no, it certainly didn't surprise me.
I was going to say, Scorsese, your reaction to the news of Ortiz and Golden Boy splitting up?
It is shocking because of the fate of Cuban fighters to me. Like, I'm not going to look at his wallet and worry about his wallet. I'm going to worry about me as a fan. Like, how am I supposed to see this guy in the ring on networks or just him in the ring, period, staying active? How am I supposed to see that without any promoter behind him, without nothing behind him? But the fact that he's high up in the rankings and basically all he needs is a bidder. If it all comes down to it, all he needs is a bidder. That's how I see the last part. But as far as getting other fights, it's shocking, man. It's a bit shocking. But I can't say Golden Boy was just getting them hella fights either and keeping them. What was he fighting 2 times a year, basically?
Pretty much.
Man, it's just the state of boxing, man. Nothing is shocking no more. Almost nothing is shocking no more. It's just what we did with this guy go this way, the other guy goes another way, and us the boxing fans stuck in the middle, turning our head, looking at both sides back. So we'll see what's going on next.
You was going to say something, Daniel?
Yeah, it's a shocking in a sense because when you read what's happening, neither Ortiz nor his manager wanted to actually split from Golden Boy. They wanted to stay with Oscar. The problem is that Date Promotions apparently, supposedly, quote-unquote, got Heymanized and thought that they could get Luis Ortiz more money for his services, given the fact that he's higher ranking. The problem is, though, now you're going to have a promotional company that really has no strong ties to any network. Like this fight with Ustamov, if it does happen in Russia, you're not going to get HBO to air it now. And on top of that, if he wins that, who's to say he's gonna have enough of a backing to go to a purse bid against a Klitschko or a Fury? And that's the bad part of it. Yes, purse bids technically guarantee you some sum of money. But when, in this case, like with the Usman fight, when the promoter that is thinking that they can get you a whole crap load of money, in this case, Dave Promotions, doesn't even bother to show up for the purse bid. Luis Ortiz was there and his manager by themselves, and Ustamov had all of his people. They were the only ones that did the bid.
Yeah, but Ustanov's people didn't win the bid. That's the point. Vlad Yurov didn't win the bid. It was Rubinsky.
Yeah, but it's still Russian, though.
Yeah,
They're still there.
He doesn't promote Ustanov, though.
But the point is, though, Luis Ortiz literally had nobody. There was only one bid placed, and that's bad when it comes to Ortiz because Father Time's not on his side either.
Nope.
And like I said, say it or not, yeah, we're probably going to talk about with the Povetkin thing. That positive test for steroids still going to hover above him. Even though right now he's entered the VADA program, he's going to test. It's still going to hang over his head over him. Golden Boy stuck by him and defended him throughout that entire scandal. I don't think Dave Promotions has the capacity to do that.
No.
Yeah. Wow.
And the fact that they didn't submit a bid, it almost indicates that he's not going to go to Russia and fight.
If he don't take that fight, then yeah, we won't see this man for a whole damn year. He's the heavyweight Gamboa. And the shit is sad. They're not built. These Cubans are not built up in American politics. They're not built up. What's the word I'm looking for? Damn, it's a very easy word. In capitalism, they're not built up in that shit. So when they come over here and make these crazy ass business decisions,
the thing is, as well, Scorsese, yeah, there's a real question about his age. From what I'm hearing as well, some are saying that he's actually 41.
Oh shit.
Well, that's the whole question. Like I think we make fun of that. Like we mentioned again, where Reagan now looks like he's actually 50.
Yeah.
Compared to that, that's the whole thing with. And that's one of the things that has hurt Cuba because of the way the embargo has impacted them. Like I said, their athletes never really got the chance to really go pro. And this actually plagues baseball a lot more in Latin America, where players actually saying they're younger or they're older than they're supposed to be to get a contract, an international contract from these teams. There was actually one famous story, I think, about 2 or 3 months ago, where somebody had pretended he was his own dead cousin so he could get a contract because of the age. And with Cuba, it's almost the opposite effect. Like, you think these guys are a lot older. And the only one that kind of looks his age is Laura, in a way.
What was
And
the little league team that came over here with the 16 with the pitcher? That was like,
oh no, that was a Bronx kid. That was a Puerto Rican kid.
And the thing is, for me, it's not just the fact that they decided to part ways. Where are the other promoters, managers trying to sign this dude up? I mean, he has this reputation as the most feared heavyweight in the world, and Lord knows HBO went about their business to call him as the most
Mike,
avoided heavyweight out there. But yet you don't have these guys trying to scoop him up. Why?
Mike, I'd look at it like with Rigo. Like when they told me Heyman was trying to get Rigo, I wanted to believe it, but I barely believe. Why in the hell would Heyman want to put Rigo and break Santa Cruz's space and fan base along with it? Then break Frampton's space and fan base along. Why the hell would you want to take Luis Ortiz and put him in your stable, and he's never gonna have fans, and he's old, and mess around and break Deontay Wilder? Why? You know, I don't believe none of that. This dude is gonna be on the shelf, and it's crazy, man. Like, much as I don't know about Golden Boy and boxing, and I'm kind of confused on this situation with Canelo and upset with it. This dude needed Golden Boy, man. He need to be where he was at.
Yeah, that's the thing. He wanted to stay. His manager wanted to stay. It was the other promotional company that thinks that they can take Luis Ortiz higher than Golden Boy, even though all the hard work.
So did they have the option? They had the option to say, manager Ortiz, no, we go. They had that option.
Apparently, yeah, they were negotiate. Yeah, they negotiated among the promoters themselves because until that situation was resolved, like say Golden Boy wasn't going to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the whole sadness when it comes to Luis Ortiz. He has a promoter, a little promoter. I get it. I get why Dave Promotions thinks they can do it. I get why they can. But the problem is they're using the hard work that Golden Boy did to do it. It's pretty much what the PBC has tried to do. They built a lot of the fighters, particularly the welterweights. They've built a lot of that hard work from what Golden Boy's done, and now that said Golden Boy's out of the equation, they can't really match what Golden Boy did as far as building. You're gonna see, you're gonna see, what Schaefer did, and you're gonna see that in the same way now with Luis Ortiz, and it's gonna be sad because, unfortunately, like I said, father time's ticking when it comes to him. Eventually, he's gonna be looked at as too old, and like I said, the Deontay Wilders and the Anthony Joshuas and the Joseph Parkers aren't gonna look his way.
Yeah. But the sad and sort of ironic thing is that his best move would have been with Heyman, because Al Heyman, like him or hate him, he does have a knack of getting his fighters world title shots.
Yeah,
and relatively quickly as well.
Why would he do it?
But the thing is, I know I hear what you're saying, Scorsese, but the way I look at Al Heyman is that his strategy is more monopolization of a division by a number of his fighters capturing all of the belts. We've seen that in sort of featherweight as well, with 3 of his fighters, and Pedraza as well having the belt as well. So I think that's probably more of his strategy. He doesn't mind unifications between his fighters in turn, but I hear what you're saying in terms of a prized asset in Wilder, and whether he will risk him with a guy in Ortiz, which is a potentially dangerous fight. But I think what Heyman would have done is that, look, he probably would have said, look, all right, if I brought him over here, fine, I'll try and put him in the fight with Joshua in that side. That was a logical fight that could be made as well. And if you could capture the IBF belt as well as having the WBC, I think that probably would have been more of his strategy. Saying that, look, the WBA side has become so complicated, and fractures and lawsuits and controversies on the regular side, etc. That just seems too chaotic. We'll target the IBF with Joshua potentially on Showtime. I think that, and given that Joshua at the moment is just running around with opponents that don't know who the hell he's going to fight, You know, I think that would have been a brilliant strategy.
Eddie Hearn
let's
would have said flat out no. He said no. He would
let's
have flat out said no.
let's
They
move
could
on.
make more money fighting David Price in the UK, and that of course they're going to do it. Then to fuck around and flirt with a King Kong Ortiz. And so I mean, this dude just went to where Cuban boxers die. Cuban boxers go to die. As far as that's what I see. You know, I hope I'm wrong, but it's too much showing it, man.
Let's move on and talk about this final story involving Klitschko. Shout out to Baylor TV. Had an interview with Bermain Stavern, and he talked about a potential fight with Vlad Klitschko, and he talked about how essentially Vlad Klitschko is very janky when it comes to contracts for the opponents. Matter of fact, I believe he called it a slave contract. I don't know if you saw it, Scorsese or Gus or Daniel, but if you did, your thoughts on that interview and what Bermain Stavern had to say about Klitschko.
Didn't see it, unfortunately.
I did see the title, but I didn't click it. I didn't watch the entire video. It was on Baylor. I don't think you mentioned it was Baylor, but I did see that with Baylor.
Yeah, Baylor.
Okay. No, I didn't see the video, but I mean, the man held 3 titles, man. You gotta go through him to eat, you know.
Daniel, were you able to see it?
I wasn't able to see it, but it's been talked about actually for a good while, for over a decade when it comes to the Klitschkos, and it's because they've had all the belts.
Yeah.
It's because they have all the belts. You pretty much had to do things on his terms, kind of like with Floyd. The problem is with Floyd, you're gonna make money doing it. With Klitschko, because of the way they do business in Germany, he has a lot more leeway, and it does put the opponents in very, very compromising positions where I think if they try to get out of the fight, they can't fight again with Klitschko, and they have to take it in right at the moment where Vlad feels it, or where Vlad's mandated to.
You never forget his moon ring he had in there with his moon mat he had in there with Fury. That's all I need to know to believe this man will do anything to get that advantage, man. This dude had a gravitized moon mat, man. I don't know what the hell that was in that ring.
And that's the thing, and I think Stavern's mentioning a lot of things where a lot of other fighters that have not actually gotten another crack at Klitschko keep mentioning, like, okay, this contract doesn't really work for me, but it's the only way I can actually win. So yeah, I can see why he calls it a slave contract in a way. The problem is that around that time it was the only way you can actually get a shot at Klitschko. The division's a lot freer now. Yeah, with Stavern. Well, the whole Stavern issue is going to be interesting to go into it because he's fighting somebody that should be suspended, but instead he's going to fight him for an interim belt due to Wilder's injuries and Povetkin. But if
that's a whole complicated one. I'm really looking at that one.
Yeah, that's.
I came to the conclusion that Vadas, they come on, man. Why aren't you on top of your shit? You're throwing off big fights for the fans. Nobody lost here but the fans. If the guys are under those limits, then come on.
No. Vada wasn't at fault here.
Well,
it's a WBC.
The guys over Vada. You're right. You're correct. They basically what governs them, the rules they intake, and I'm forgetting the name of that right now. But
that's
I know
Wada.
exactly what Wada.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. It isn't Vada's fault, but the problem is with Povetkin, the statement kind of read like a suspension, and then almost literally, I think within the hour, they announced this fight with Stavern, which like as Gus mentioned, complicates things for Joshua. Because it looked for a while like Joshua Stavern was going to be a thing. But now Stavern's going the WBC route. And now Joshua's really looking for opponents.
And the thing is, Danny, I mean that situation is just completely ridiculous because Stavern is ranked 16 under the WBC. So how the hell does he get a shot for an interim belt?
Hey,
Actually, no. He was ranked 3.
let's be
He
honest.
was ranked number 2, actually.
Joshua ain't in no deficit of opponents. They could put 1, 2, 3, 4 us in a row, and he'd fill out wherever he's at over there in the UK. So he's
No,
not crying about opponents. So
no, Scorsese. The thing about it, this is the thing though, and I've had, like I said, I've had this conversation actually before with some people in the UK. Like I think we've had this conversation here.
tired of it, huh?
Yeah, it's a conversation where he'll make money in the UK. The goal now is trying to build him in the US.
Mm-hmm.
And like I think at one point they were mentioning there was a question whether if he fought Hughie Fury, would that be a big fight? That might be a big fight in the UK, but over here, I don't think it'll make waves for Anthony Joshua. And right now, Anthony Joshua is going to have to try to build because pretty much he's done all he can domestically. He'll sell out Wembley no matter who he faces. That's true. The problem, though, is...
Do you think it's capable of him of being... the way boxing is, I don't really think he's going to come over here and be much. The UK population over here might love him, but I don't see American fans just getting on any fighter that comes from any... I really don't see it. I think Golovkin's taking it up.
No. I disagree with that.
No, this is the thing with Scorsese. People like knockouts. Anthony Joshua provides knockouts. And he's young, and he's built like a linebacker. And
America still loves heavyweights too much. No.
Yeah, like he'll be popular here.
I think so. Klitschko couldn't do it.
But Klitschko ain't got no personality either. Joshua does.
That's the thing.
I disagree. That's why I disagree.
And plus, Joshua fights in a more exciting style than Klitschko.
Okay, yeah. I can agree that. I don't think America loves heavyweights no more. I think America loved Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao. I think America's looking for the next stat. That's what I see. We love heavyweights.
No, well, that goes into the fundamental question of, is money being made equal to actual popularity? Let's face facts for a little bit. The reason Floyd Mayweather made so much money, and when a lot of people bought Floyd Mayweather pay-per-views, was that people hoped to watch him lose.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get that with Joshua.
It's because he specifically picked Latino fighters and he became the heel and thus won their audiences and fighting against Latino fighters on Latin American holidays. That was his strategy to making money.
Yeah, that was the whole thing. With Joshua, he doesn't have to. Like I said, he's young, he's articulate, he knows how to speak in the mic, and he knocks people out. So he's going to be popular here in the U.S. The problem is you have to build him.
You bring Joshua here, get him a couple of showcase fights, and you try to set up a fight with him and Wilder in the United States, and try to compare that with Triple G. No, they will fare a lot bigger than any Triple G fight, just as a standalone.
I think in pay-per-view you're right. Pay-per-view wise you're right, but still I think they still suffer.
And especially build him up via Showtime.
Yep.
Come on.
Yeah, but Mike, a question for you. What was the viewing audiences for that Showtime fight that was shown in the US? Him in Brazil?
I don't know. I would suspect it wouldn't be that much because it was in the middle of the afternoon. Yeah. But the issue is, put that in prime time at night.
I looked that up real fast.
Yeah, I think it got, about close to 1 million views, if not a little more. There are people interested. It's just that, right now we have to go by UK time, and that's not exactly a good time, even on a Saturday for U.S. fans.
What was that? Was that on Showtime Extreme?
It was on Showtime Boxing International.
Okay.
And that it was shown, I think, on Show Extreme in the Rio. They showed it on regular Showtime as Showtime Boxing International.
So it wasn't pay-per-view Showtime in the States?
No, it wasn't. No, regular
Okay.
Showtime.
Okay.
Regular
It's
Showtime,
pay-per-view Sky in the UK. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's the whole thing. But
Yeah.
that's the whole thing we're gonna go back into with this. Anthony Joshua needs to be built up where he can be seen as a pay-per-view fighter here in the U.S. And an opponent like a Hughie Fury wasn't gonna do it. Now the opponent that's been talked about, Kudev Pulev, that might do it because he's a legitimate fighter. He's the current European champion. He's high up, and he is ranked. And like I said, if Povetkin would have been suspended and the WBC still did this interim thing, it would have been Pulev versus Stavern for the interim WBC title. So he's ranked pretty. So he's a pretty decently ranked fighter. The problem is though now, he's also being complicated also by David Haye. That's the thing also, because David Haye himself has been waffling around trying to find an opponent, even though on principle he technically agreed to fight Shannon Briggs. And as like I said, as ludicrous as we laughed, as we were in this broadcast, you, me, Scorsese, and Gail, and Gus, Mike, as much as all of us here were pretty much saying, oh, if Shannon Briggs knocks out, we're just going to do a special hangout, just yell, let's go, champ. That fight's not happening. And
I'm disappointed that fight's not happening.
I'm not. But that 300,000 for Joshua, under 300,000 for Joshua Brazil, 289,000. Yeah.
Like I said, in the middle of the afternoon.
So that would have been what 2 p.m. or something, yeah.
It was 5 p.m.
no.
Okay.
Yeah, here at that time. So no, I didn't anticipate that doing big numbers at all.
Yeah, it's also 5 p.m. during the summer baseball season, and I think the finals were still happening then.
How many fights did they show? Was it just the Brazil and Joshua? Or any of the undercards?
What they wound up showing, I think, what they wound up doing is they taped the Eubanks fight.
Okay.
They taped the Eubanks fight, and they showed that in light of instead of showing Murray versus George Groves.
Okay. All right.
And then afterwards, then they went into the whole Joshua thing, which is to me was the stupid decision. They should have aired those 3 fights.
I don't recall that one. I don't recall it. I think I just got Joshua by himself.
Now, remember, Scorsese, it's the one where Eubanks called out Triple G before his dad ruined that chance.
Okay. Yeah, I think I jumped on that one late. I wasn't really thinking about Eubank. I'm not big on Eubank, to be honest.
Speaking of Eubank, how far of a drop, how much of a drop, Gus? Yeah. You went from, you were going to fight Triple G in England before your dad ruins it, and now he's fighting Langdon?
It's the right thing to do. This dude's still European level, to be honest. Like he hasn't. You don't even have an Andy Lee on your resume. You don't have that. You got the Billy Joe when Billy Joe was still European level, and you lost. You better not go right in the Triple G. You nuts. You get paid. Yeah, if you want to get paid, go ahead.
Well, wouldn't the logical thing, Gus, be to try to make the fight with Eubanks at this point, because Eubanks has been pretty much fucking around trying to not fight?
The thing is, Danny, I mean, if you look at his opponents, it's a decline. He's gone from Billy Joe Saunders, to Spike O'Sullivan, to Nick Blackwell, to Tom Doran, and now.
Has there been any talk of him fighting? If you can't get the fight with Eubank, him possibly fighting Jacobs?
Who is that, Golovkin?
No,
the bizarre
Eubank.
thing is that
Eubank Jr.
He was mandatory for Jacobs' belt before, but I think he's no longer, or I don't know whether he he vacated the interim or whatever. I don't know what exactly transpired, but before the whole Golovkin fight, he was mandatory for the WBA regular belt, and that to me would have been the logical step as well. And given his education in the States and in Vegas where he's lived, etc., that would have been the perfect fight. And I think it's a fight. It would have been an exciting fight as well. And I think Jacobs, I don't rate him at all as a fighter, so I think he would have had a chance as well, a puncher's chance certainly.
Can I ask the panelists how I feel? It's something I feel about middleweights, and it's the first time I probably said this. Is these days, this day and age of middleweights is like they're so unimportant, but they keep finding a way to be important without doing anything. Do y'all feel like that?
See, you just proved my point why Joshua could be considered more of a name if he was to get here than a Golovkin, because of the fact that Golovkin, as good of a fighter as he is, as dominant he is, as exciting as he is, and he has the Apple deal and whatever, the fact is he doesn't have the fight with Canelo yet, and B, he fights in a kind of weak division. He hasn't fought a great opponent yet.
Okay.
Versus a Joshua who got all these names here at heavyweight potential, with a Fury, with a Klitschko, with an Ortiz, Parker, Wilder. You put him in here and fight any of those guys, build that division up in the rising heavyweight division, bring him to the States, there's no doubt he would be a more popular fighter than Golovkin.
But then Golovkin has that wishing apple card, that apple card he's wishing on, and that's the redhead, the apple redhead guy, Canelo.
Keyword, wish.
And then also he's trying the opposite of Joshua, trying to transcend over into another continent on his own in the UK, which he's gonna do that successfully, I think. And then maybe DeGale after that, I'm not sure. He says 68 got nothing big for him. But I think he sees the money in the UK, and maybe I don't think he should go to 68 after being 164 at 30-day weigh-ins and at 35 years old. But I think the next step is if he quit wishing on Canelo, he's going to take more UK money and go over there with DeGale.
And Joshua could conversely come around and get some US money. So that's a one-off. We're even.
Okay. Yeah. But understand, Golovkin's not an American nor UK for him. What he's doing, he's transcending something. I don't know how it happened. I guess because what Daniel said, like in knockouts. Because I'm not overly impressed with nothing on the resume, but I'm just stating what is it. This man came from Kazakhstan. He's taking the U.S. by his own little storm. And the UK seems to love him. And it sold out like what he said. Hearn said an hour or something.
And I don't care about all that. If Golovkin and Canelo doesn't happen, at the end of the day, what does it really mean? Because that's the fight folks want to see. Period.
Okay, I just thought of a decent analogy for this whole situation. Like if you want to compare Triple G and Joshua, what they want to be. Triple G right now is Eminem when the first Slim Shady LP came out. Really big in the underground. He just hasn't had the opportunity yet to pop into the mainstream. Anthony Joshua is trying to be right now the rap god Eminem. The dude that everybody knows who he is. Anything that he puts out, people are going to listen to it. That's what Joshua wants to be.
Golovkin is trying to be Eminem. Joshua is trying to be Jay-Z.
You could say that. Well,
what if Eminem goes over there and does comparable pay-per-view numbers though? Is that possible? I was going to ask Gus. You're in the UK, right? So is that possible for him to do?
And what I mean by that,
it's possible for him to do that. You believe so?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, they're talking about, I'd say, they're talking about maybe up to about 750,000.
Man, that man is. Whew. Hey.
And that's
go back to the States. He better not come back to the States. The hell with the States. They
Yeah,
showed you what they want. They give you 100,000. That's it.
this is it. This is it. And we were talking about Canelo. That's what Canelo and Golovkin are doing simultaneously. They are developing their worldwide brand, and now they're pitching themselves to the casual UK fan. So
But
from
here's a
a lucrative
question,
point of
Gus.
view,
But
yeah,
here's a question, Gus.
yeah.
Golovkin may get 750,000 buys or whatever in the UK, but would
Yeah.
that outweigh a Joshua Fury fight?
No.
It wouldn't even be
thing.
close.
That's the overlying thing. He would
No.
still get it. He would still get it.
And here's actually I had this discussion, and this is actually a good question for
So
you.
you talk about Golovkin going into the UK for appeal. I can understand that, but you let Joshua fight the right guy there, he would get it still, and then come to you, and then come to the US. Come on.
Actually, I had this question for you guys, and I want to see if you guys can answer it, because I think I asked it before on my show, and you just mentioned it with the Fury Joshua. Do you guys think a Joshua Fury fight, if Fury has no belts, if he's just stripped, would it sell as much here as it would in the UK? Because to me, the answer right now is no.
Probably not, but it doesn't need to. Just like Ben and Eubank, their rematch didn't necessarily need to be the UK to be a mega bout. Same thing there, but even now it's on an even bigger level. And with the advent of social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and whatnot, more people know about both Fury and Joshua here in the States as opposed to a worldwide audience, particularly Americans specifically, knew about Ben and Eubank in 1990 when they first fought, in 1993 when they fought for a rematch.
Can we give Golovkin a fairer stage? If he fights Canelo here in the States, does that do better numbers than Joshua Fury over there in the UK?
That's tough. That's a tough question. I'm
still leaning on your side, to be honest with you. I'm still thinking Joshua and Fury are doing.
I'm leaning towards Joshua and Fury in the UK because the UK, England is a smaller country. We'll put it this way. When Ben and Eubank fought in 93 in the rematch, correct me if I'm wrong, Gus, but didn't 15 to 20 million folks watch that bout?
Yeah, it was probably the highest for a boxing fight.
So we're talking at least a third of the country. Now imagine what a Fury and a Joshua bout would do there in the UK.
Exactly, Mike, and compare it very quickly, because the Olympics, like the British in a hockey match, which was the highest, peaked over here on free TV, and it was like 5 or 6 million, and that's for a UK sort of gold medal match, comparing it to like boxing back in the day.
Are you going to get 20 million viewers in the US for a triple G Canelo match? I don't think so.
No, I agree. Like I said, I just pay-per-view wise, I was just
And the only way they could make it up is because pay-per-view, the cost of pay-per-view here in the States is much higher than it is in the UK.
Yeah, and the thing, what I was saying before, Mike, is what K2 and Golden Boy are ultimately trying to do is that they want to make it the second only fight involving non-UK fighters to be on pay-per-view in the UK. Now, Pac-Man and Floyd Mayweather was the first, and obviously that, given the sort of magnitude of that fight, and how much it even generated in the UK, that's ideally what they're trying to do. Hence why they're fighting UK fighters and being on pay-per-view in the UK. That's ultimately what they want. They want that on a pay-per-view in the UK, which is going to be hard to do, but by fighting UK fighters in succession, that's ultimately their strategy.
So
isn't it kind of foolhardy though, in a way, because let's face it, Canelo and Triple G, two people that should be fighting each other, ultimately wind up finding two people who themselves should have been fighting each other in Khan and Brook. And I know there's things of brand building, but then there's credibility factor into it. Triple G, as far as like credibility, like yeah, I see a lot of people saying you did the same thing, you're doing the same thing as Canelo. I said it. You're doing the same thing as Canelo, and you just can't hide it. Whereas with Canelo, you can at least make somewhat of a push with Liam because it's only one weight division difference. Even though I think Liam might lose, the problem is though is you're thinking of a market that you can sell in 3 regions because it's going to be U.S., it's going to be Europe, and you're going to try to sell it in Central Asia with Kazakhstan. You're trying to sell that area, you're trying to fill a stadium, and all you've done to build up the fight right now currently is fight people that are 2 weight divisions down than you.
Hmm. That's true. That's true. And plus, like I said, Triple G it's all dependent on this in a comparison with Triple G and Joshua. It's just all comparison. It depends on if he gets that fight with Canelo, and if he gets the fight with Canelo and win, then what? Then what? You have to have a lot of build up at 168 to have a suitable opponent there, and that's going to take time. And in the time that's going to be made,
Yeah.
you're going to have all these heavyweights potentially fighting each other. So nah, son.
And the thing is as well, Mike, is that why his pay-per-view numbers are affected, and it's a very simple argument. Now, who ultimately wants to pay £50 or £60 on HBO pay-per-view to watch a guy you know is going to knock out his opponent in the round or 2 rounds? That's going to affect the decision straight away. You ain't going to pay that much money if you know it ain't going to be a competitive fight. But if you're watching a fight from a live perspective, that's why he's able to sell it out, is because when people who ultimately go to a live fight, they want to see a knockout.
And the hypocrisy of that would be, Gus, the same folks who would say they would do that for a non-competitive fight, they would turn around and get mad at Crawford and Postall pay-per-view, paying the money for that.
Yeah.
Well, there's also this aspect. Gus just described pretty much the sentiment. I could say it's pre-Mayweather Pacquiao as the Tyson dilemma, because that's what a lot of people did with Mike Tyson fights. You knew you were just going to win for 1 round, but you bought the pay-per-view anyway because it's Mike Tyson. The problem, though, is after Maypac, the market's changed. And trying to sell people this type of fight, it's a lot ludicrous when the only difference is, I think, $25 between that and what people had to go through with Maypac, knowing full well we might get served that plate of trash again next May.
And Tyson transcended the sport in a way that really nobody's doing right now. So I don't know if that comparison is fair.
I don't mean comparison. I just mean like how people viewed it at the time.
I still think the world's looking for not the next heavyweight because it hasn't been one. They looking for what we have, the next Floyd. They say it all the time, the next Floyd Mayweather. That's what they're looking for.
No,
I believe it. I really believe it. You got the Javante.
I do, but if I say it, I don't want to have fighters coming on here and calling me out for being, the R word, racist. But I'm not going to go there.
Not really. Well, let's think about it in a sense. What is the most popular sport in the U.S.? Football.
I do have a really pushback against that, but I don't want to have folks saying, "Oh, you're being racist. You're one of these, YBTC black channels that's talking about race." But I'm not going to go there.
Hey, you could kill them by simply asking, what name have you typed in your YTBC comments the most? You type Mayweather or Pacquiao the most. So you killing you proving your own point. They want.
Yeah.
I mean, America would go for a heavyweight, but again, if I go there, the folks will come back at me and want to, no. Well, it's just not the right heavyweight. Put it that way.
Well, that's the whole thing when it comes down to it. Like, if you mention the YTBC, there's a reason why, unfortunately, we just saw somebody in the YTBC pretty much get ethered recently.
I
For
mean, I'm
doing
just
something like
saying.
that.
I'll just say if it was a heavyweight like Rocky, trust me, America would care a lot.
Yeah.
They would. I think they would still. They would legitimately, I think, care for a
Jack
Joshua
Dempsey.
or you know what? We didn't talk about this. Big Baby Miller, who fought in Showbox on that Friday. He
No,
has a mouth. He has a mouth, and he
He's
doesn't
fun.
look like all ripped up.
I like that
He has a mouth.
I like that guy.
he's hilarious, but I have to see him in shape in order to take him seriously, dog. Seriously.
That is his shape. I'm starting to recognize and realize that
You,
Yeah.
is his shape.
you think he is what he is, bro?
That's it. That's what I'm starting to realize.
I thought Dominic Brazil needed a wonder bra, man, but this guy, man.
That dude. I mean, I don't know what's up with the trunks, with the little dress trunks, but yo, I'm just starting to believe this guy is who he is.
Yeah.
Man,
And,
he's dressing like Hector Camacho 2016, man.
yeah. And well, let's look at Big Baby Miller also in this aspect though. He's not like just some big burly guy coming into it. He's coming from the world of kickboxing. So he's coming from an actual athletic background that does deal in combat. Maybe this really is his shape. Maybe this is the areola syndrome, I call it, where you have to be big in order for your power to translate. Maybe if he does slim down, even down to 250, maybe he doesn't have the same power.
So
I
that
was
Chris
impressed.
Arioli
I was
effect.
impressed. I was impressed with what that man did. It's crazy. Big old guy.
He
I
can
wouldn't.
fight
I
though.
wouldn't
He can fight
hesitate
though.
to
I'll
say.
give him credit. He's skilled, but again, I just want to see him in shape because if he's in shape, that means he will perform at his very best, and I want to see how he performs at his very best. Because to me, I see a version of I see kind of like he reminds me of Tim Witherspoon.
Oh.
And Tim Witherspoon was
What
a guy
shape
who
did
was
he
highly skilled, but he was never in the best of shape and didn't have the greatest looking body.
What
Yeah.
size you want? Like 265?
But here's the
What?
thing. Here's the thing. He said in his last fight, which he weighed 275, he was wanting to come in at in the mid 250 mid 250 range. But then you saw the weight listed for
296.
right. Come on now.
I got no clue. I just think that if he needed to do 12 rounds of what he did the other day, it looked like it could be done.
Well, okay. I think where was that fight? I think in upstate New York, or
Yeah, it was in a small town actually.
Yeah.
Fred
it was
Cassie.
a. Yeah, no, I mean like where the fight was. I
Yeah,
think it was in it was in one of those little small towns, and
I
we
want to
know.
say Coney Island, but that was Spence. It was in New York. No, it
Yeah,
wasn't even in New York. It wasn't even in New York.
I forgot
Gosh,
what it was, but well,
I
it's a pretty small town, and we know small town diners that like to serve big portions. So,
yeah. Yeah, I think we should start shutting the show down on that note. I don't really see much of anything happening this weekend, but if you guys want to note any boxing happening this weekend, feel free right now.
let me look here.
I mean, I know Ghost Guerrero is fighting this weekend. Who else? Angulo.
I'm putting the same rule that you have a Margarito to me with Angulo.
Fights in Japan.
Yeah, he needs to go away, man. That was ridiculous. What I seen in De La Rosa fight, I just felt like that needs to stop right then and there.
Like I said, like the same policy that Mike has about Antonio Margarito, I'm starting to implement it now with Alfredo Angulo.
He
No, man.
almost made me think De La Rosa was on his way to a title. He almost made me believe it.
Yeah.
um,
That's the only ones. Yeah, the two fights in Japan, and a fight in Unimas, and then that Robert Guerrero fight.
Oh, quickly before we begin shutting things down. Jose Benavidez, undefeated prospect, shot in Arizona this morning, taken to the hospital. The report I read this morning, well, he's going to survive the shooting. His career may be in question. Quickly, your thoughts on the gentleman.
Did Jose Benavidez just say I want to be a gangster like Charles Martin? Seriously.
said he got walked up on by a dog lover and said, "Hey, is that dog friendly?" And, and the guy just started shooting him. That's what the father said.
Damn.
Nobody shoots somebody when you say that the dog's friendly. You don't do that shit.
Okay, the scenario is Jose's walking the dog, Junior walking the dog. Somebody else's son comes up and say, "Hey, is that dog friendly?" And that's how we know from there the shots were fired.
First, like I said,
Yeah,
who shoots you?
Daniel, the first thing I said, these getting shot stories getting crazier and crazier by the second. No, nobody want to tell what's going on. Like Charles Martin, oh, I was just 5 o'clock in the morning, and somebody shot me because it was just 5 o'clock in the morning. I don't know, man.
Okay, no. It was 5 o'clock in the morning. Apparently, Charles Martin was close to the Sunset Strip. The Sunset Strip's known for certain things that happen at 5 o'clock in the morning. To quote the Cat Williams, there's plenty of a pimp named Slickback in Sunset Strip at 5 o'clock in the morning. So, I don't know. Oh, God. Why? Now, granted, this just highlights the fact that, okay, I get to see more of your brother, David, instead, which is good because he's actually the better fighter out of the two of you now.
Yeah.
Somebody wrote on Twitter, the bullet ricocheted off the turnbuckle and hit Jose, who was standing next to the ropes.
That's rude.
I lost it.
That is rude.
Oh my God! Somebody who's listening to this, develop a meme right now for grassy knoll near Jose Benavidez' house.
Oh man,
That is so rude.
Yeah, I thought it was like, man, it was a Mexican guy. I'm like, yo, this is supposed to be your man, but he was on him, man. I was like, yo, but I'll be honest, when I first thought about it, the first thing I thought about was his last performance too, and I don't know. Maybe that's, fans are nuts, man. Maybe they knew him and just, you know what, fuck him. I can't stand that shit. I don't know. He did rob the guy in some people's minds. There's no telling, man.
He robbed two people.
Yeah.
He robbed two people, but even then, you don't shoot somebody like that.
Yeah, he got a plate in his knee, shot in his pinky, a thumb, or something. I'm like, man, a guy come up to you, actually dog friendly, and just start shooting you out of nowhere. That's a crazy story, man.
Now, the only way that makes sense is if you're trying to steal the dog.
Yeah, we didn't hear nothing about that part. I didn't hear anything about that part. And then don't even shoot somebody for a dog. Like, I don't know.
The Unimas fights look better though, innit, than the other one, very quickly.
Yeah.
Fill me in on this. Since we're talking Unimas, I know they show a lot of smaller fighters.
Mariaga, they got him again.
What about
Yes.
What about the guys not fighting at 18 and 15? Somebody's moving up. I hear Inoue is. What is he doing? Say he's moving to 18?
Inoue, I know he has a fight next month.
Yeah.
What he's doing after that, I'm not sure. I have to look that up, to be honest.
Well, they said the Chocolito effect pushing him to 15, up to 18 or something like that. That's what the Twitter narrative is.
Well, yeah, because Chocolatito's gonna fight at 115, but the problem is though, eventually people want to see that fight, and Inoue's still young enough where those 3 pounds he can still make.
I mean, all I know is he's coming to the States to watch Cuadras and Chocolatito.
Yes. Oh, and yes. And
so to me, that says we may see this fight 2017. So I would dispute all these would dispute all this stuff about him moving to 118. He wouldn't be coming to the States to watch the fight if he wasn't trying to seek a fight with Roman.
And let's face facts. That's actually the Japanese learning their lesson from Uchiyama. They waited too long for Uchiyama to make the fight. They were trying to make the Walters fight, and granted, Walters priced himself out, but they waited too long, and then wound up having Uchiyama have been in fact knocked out by Corrales.
I didn't even know him and Walters got to the money issue. I thought the WBA basically just just jumped in and said, "Here we go for a Tuna Walters." That's what we want. That's around the time they start trying to consolidate all their titles, basically.
Yeah, they
So
had it to
I
do the
didn't even know
same
they
time.
got the money.
And let me add as an aside, not as an extension, not only is Anui coming to the States, but I'm hearing he's going to make his debut in the States next spring.
Yep.
You heard it from me.
Woo! Oh man, that's beautiful news. Last year, Mike was not doing the Birdman hand rub when I heard the phenomenal news.
And you know, and the hope is a showdown between the two in 2017. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna leave it right there. You
Oh
heard it
man.
you heard it from me on heard it from Mike, Brother J on pound for pound.
Oh man.
Have we also got Mikey Garcia against Dejan Zlaticanin?
Oh yes.
I heard that too,
Yes.
but I
Okay.
can't confirm from my sources. So
I'll say this right now: if Mikey catch those right hands he caught from the former baseball player, that chin that Mikey told Mike, there you go.
Well, no. We got to give props to Mike if he takes this fight.
Yeah,
We got to give props to him.
damn straight. Cause I'm
Because-
I'll
telling
tell you what though,
damn,
man.
if he throws the same punches, he might go to sleep. That
man.
dude can punch.
Yeah, that's the whole point. This is your second fight coming back. You're challenging for a world title. You could have gone the Flanagan route and easily won that title.
yeah, and let me just finish right quick. The rumors of the move to 118, that's supposedly after this potential fight with Roman.
Well, which makes logical sense because technically by then probably Chocolatito would move up to 118 himself. So that makes sense if you want to make a trilogy.
I don't know if Chocolatito move right now. He seems to take a little time at a weight class. I don't know. It seems to take a little time.
No, think about this. If you make it right now a fight with Chocolatito in a new way, in the States. Remember, Chocolatito's primary promoter is still Taiken Promotions, it's still Mr. Honda. The next fight, you know damn well is going to be in the Tokyo Dome.
You saying Tokyo?
In the Tokyo Dome. And that place is going to be full because luckily Japan has now finally learned how to be boxing fans a little bit. They've learned their lessons from Tyson Douglas. And not to mention, like I said, they're going to be riled up a little bit because they're going to be building up to the Olympics themselves. So that's going to be an interesting facet to it. But it's an interesting thing to be a Japanese athlete nowadays. Like we have Ichiro right now. He joined the 3000. He joined the 3000 hit club recently. And if you want to look at the aspect of all what's considered combat sports, or you want to say sports entertainment, the two hottest entities right now, probably in the WWE, are two Japanese people. This guy Shinsuke Nakamura and a woman who goes by Asuka. Their fan bases are extreme. Like they had their pay-per-view in Brooklyn, and they had Shinsuke Nakamura, his theme song sung out like us. They sang that song like you would expect Man U and Man City people to sing to each other during the game. Their anthems. It's a decent time to be Japanese. I'll give him that.
Yeah, and then I think we're going to start to shut the show down on that note because we're going pretty long here. I'll go around the panel here. Started with you, Scorsese. For folks who want to talk boxing or anything else, let the folks know where they can find you. Unmute your mic, brother.
Oh yeah, gosh, what's the name of my YouTube channel?
Low Place MF or something like that.
Yeah, Low Place hashtag
MLPF.
MLPF. Yeah, my YouTube. I try to do my videos a little different with pictures and give my opinion out. Now I didn't want to do quantity over quality and do other things with it as well. On my Twitter, like I said, I talk boxing. When anybody wants to talk boxing on that, I don't know the name of that either. At my low place, I believe at my at my low place maybe.
Uh, one question. Will we see any more? Will we see you break out the tiger? Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I'll probably just keep doing pictures because I like those videos, man. I like doing. I have fun making. I think I made a Kodo versus Gamboa, and And matter of fact, that fight, I wish they would have made it. I'm not gonna lie, I like it. Um, I like those doing the pictures and the little animations and stuff like that. Pretty fun, man.
Because if you don't follow him on if you don't follow Scorsese on his YouTube channel, he's been known to break out a full blown tiger regalia, head to toe, look like he's cosplaying there. So that's pretty fun when he does that.
Oh man.
Gus from Corruption and Boxing for folks off the sweet science of music. Let the folks to work and hit you up.
Yeah, folks can hit me up on Corruption in Boxing on YouTube and other platforms. Music-wise, I'm on Covert Operative. And by the way, Scorsese, regarding your website, my lettuce lost its freshness after a couple of days. I'm not following your videos anymore, mate.
Yeah. Mine stayed good for 5 weeks, man. Swear,
God
man.
damn.
You got something that's not, they probably making you like GMO lettuce or something, man. Probably what you got over there. Who knows?
Daniel Carpio from the Inscriber. For folks who want to talk boxing or basketball, specifically the Miami Heat, let the folks know where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter at Rockers99. Like I said, we write for the Inscriber magazine, getting ready to do the training camp episodes for the Heat. And like I said, on Sundays or Mondays, me and Joe Francis for Boxing News. We talk a little bit of boxing itself. Like I said, we're probably going to talk a little bit this week. Most likely, if anything, for the fights, we'll be forced to talk. Unfortunately, I think Robert Guerrero. We're going to be forced to. But we're going to be looking to a nice September.
And yeah, indeed. There's a lot of boxing happening in September for folks who want to talk boxing or anything else with me. Brother JR on Twitter at BrotherJR76. You know what it is. Again, if you want to find out more information about the Pound for Pound Boxing Report, just check out the blog page, p4pboxingreport.wordpress.com. Check to the right of the blog page. You can find us links to find us all over the interwebs, all over social media. Links to find the YouTube page, the Facebook page, and G Plus pages. Links to find us on Twitter, on Tumblr, the Tumblr page as well. Links to check out the RSS feed if you want to subscribe us via that route. Also, links to find us on Stitcher Radio, Flipboard Magazine, SoundCloud, iTunes, and Player FM. I didn't mention that earlier, but you can also find the Pound for Pound Box Report via Player FM, particularly my UK fans who check out the show over there. They can find us over there on Player FM. Probably we'll take next week off because, again, there's nothing really happening boxing-wise. As I'm finally getting around trying to set up this next episode, Ladies Love Boxing episode. The goal is to have it in 2 weeks, so I'm trying to do some things behind the scenes to set things up there. So for Scorsese, for Daniel Carpio, for Gus from Corruption in Boxing, I'm your host, Michael. This has been episode 137 of the Pound for Pound Boxing Report. Everybody have a good evening. Good night.
Good night, folks.
Peace and hair grease.